Good evening, everyone. Today is Navam full moon day. Navam means February. Good evening, everyone. Today is Navam full moon day. Navam means February. In many countries, Navam full moon day was observed yesterday, but according to US calendar, today is the full moon day. And we are celebrating Navam full moon day exactly on the full moon day because it happened to be a Sunday. Here, we don't always get the exact day to observe full moon day in this country because people are always busy with their other activities on weekdays. And today happened to be a Sunday, and that is a wonderful opportunity for all of you and all of us to participate in the celebration of this very important full moon day in the Buddhist way. Today we have organized a Dhamma Desana, Dhamma talk here at the ABS temple. And some of you are at home prepared to participate and listen to the Dhamma talk. So to begin the Dhamma talk, please recite Namo Tassa 3 times to observe 5 precepts. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi Pānātipātā vēramaṇī sikkhapadang samādhiyāmi. Adinna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu michchācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvātā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Suramēraya majjapamā daṭṭhāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Samanta cakkavalesu atra gaccantu devata saddhammam munirajassa sunantu saggamokkhadan Dhamma savana kalu ayang badanta Dhamma savana kalu ayang badanta Dhamma savana kalu ayang badanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Sabba papassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada Sacitta pariyodapanang etang buddhana sasanang Khanti paramang tapotitikha Nibbanang paramang vadanti buddha Nahi pabbajito parupagati Samano hoti parang vihetayantu Anupavado anupaghato Patimokhe cha sangvaro Mattanyuta cha bhattasmin Pantancha sayanasanang Adhichitte cha ayogo Etang buddhana sasanang ti. Good evening, everyone. Today, I took the main subject of the Dhamma talk, that is very familiar to most of you. At least one of the gathas that I recited out of 3 gathas may be familiar to you. About 2,600 years ago, our Buddha compassionately taught this gatha to his disciples on a historical day like today, on a February or Navam full moon day. So I thought this is a great opportunity for us to look back at this amazing teachings of the Buddha and enhance our lives using the guidance given by the Buddha 2600 years ago. Buddha was born in Vesak full moon day, that is May. Only 9 months or 10 months later, 10th full moon day was the Navam full moon day. This is the first year that Buddha became enlightened, and Buddha has been teaching all different people. But this special teaching that he gave was given to only a group of venerable monks who has already fully enlightened. Buddha was staying in bamboo grove that was belonged to King Bimbisara. Later there was a building, vihara, but this time, just after 10 months of Buddha's enlightenment, this was still a garden, beautiful garden, gathering place also for different teachers who come from place to place to teach Dhamma. This bamboo grove is a very beautiful place, and Buddha was staying there on this particular day, 10th month after the enlightenment. By this time, he has given teaching to many large groups. And there were large number of enlightened people who received the ordination from the Buddha himself. Later on, when Buddha's congregation was growing, Buddha couldn't personally ordain his followers. But this first months of the Buddha's enlightenment, all the monks who were enlightened already were ordained by the Buddha himself. And Buddha has already sent them to many different directions in India at the time. So they were scattered, all these enlightened monks were scattered, visiting and teaching the Dhamma to many people. But amazingly, this particular day, all these venerable monks who were scattered everywhere, without any invitation, decided to visit the Buddha on that full moon day. And this thought occurred to them. Buddha was staying at such and such a place, and we should go visit him. And it happened to be that all these different monks walked several days, maybe several months, and finally arrived at this particular place, which is called Bamboo Grove, Veluwana, and 1,250 monks were there on this full moon evening at this temple. Normally, we have to send invitation to invite these people who are scattered everywhere. And after hearing the message, Buddha will be meeting you such and such a place and such a time. So they would come. But in this case, they, without any invitation, spontaneously decided to arrive Veluwana on this day, and they were there. 1,250 enlightened monks. That's a very special number of enlightened monks for only 9 months. Buddha was actually teaching for 45 years, visiting places, teaching different people, helping them to practice the Dhamma, and teaching how to meditate for the purpose of becoming enlightened, purifying their minds. And this is only almost the beginning of the first year. And at that time, that meeting, they had many various discussions among the monks about Dhamma, about their lives, very harmoniously. Listening to the Buddha in that day, and Buddha thought of giving this very important advice related to what are the actual guidelines of a follower of the Buddha. If anybody follow these guidelines, they were bound for complete elimination of all suffering, and most probably attaining enlightenment in this very life. And Buddha called this, and later the monks, even the disciples, called this particular advice of guidelines of a follower of the Buddha. You can call it disciple of the Buddha. Especially that there are large collection of Vinaya rules established by the Buddha during his lifetime, that 45 years. When certain incident happened, when a follower or disciple of the Buddha, monk or nun, engaged in an activity that is not suitable for a monk or nun, at that situation, Buddha established a rule. O venerable monks, this is not a suitable behavior for monks. If anyone engaged in this activity, they would face an offense and they would be guilty of behaving in a way that is not suitable for a monk or nun. And there are many levels of offenses. Highest level of offenses, there are 4. They are called parajikas. If you engaged in any of these 4 activities as a fully ordained monk, they lose the ability to be a monk any further. There are 4 offenses. And anyone who commit these offenses, they would be excommunicated by the order. They will not anymore monks. But below that, 4 offenses, there are all different levels of offenses that could be, you can call it punishable by other monks to rehabilitate, not punishable to punish them, but to rehabilitate and back to follow the path of the Buddha. That happened because there were many monks and nuns who entered the order and became monks and nuns with not deep desire to follow the Dhamma and reach enlightenment in this very life. Because some of these monks have no desire to strictly follow the guidelines of a monk or nun, they committed many different offenses, mean they engaged in activities that are not suitable for a monk or nun. So now you know they are called Vinaya rules. Vinaya rules means you should learn, once you become a monk, that these activities are not proper for a monk or nun. But this is the early stage of the Buddha's order of monks. There were not even nuns at that time. So Buddha gave the basic guidelines for a follower of the Buddha, disciple of the Buddha, to live by. So this set of guidelines were not rules. They were advices, guidelines suggested by the Buddha for all of the followers. Patimokha, this is called Ovada Patimokha, this particular guidelines that given by the Buddha on that special meeting to the monks were only suggestions. These are the major guidelines that any of the follower who entered the order in order to eliminate suffering, overcome all weaknesses of a human being, and finally attain enlightenment. If you follow these guidelines, that would be perfect for these people who are intending to attain ultimate perfection. So this became a very, very important advice of guideline. Ovada means advice. Patimokha means guidelines, advice of guidelines for monks especially, but you can call it advice of guidelines for the follower of the Buddha, monk or lay person, monk, nun, lay person, layman, or laywoman. So all these are followers. Only you start seriously following the Buddha for the purpose of overcoming all suffering. That is the nature of a serious Buddhist follower. That is the goal of a Buddhist follower. But later on, many other people became interested in Dhamma and they started following the Dhamma just to make their life less complicated, less difficult, not necessarily to become enlightened. But all these followers, when they learn the Dhamma more and more, deeper and deeper, they begin to see the urgency, need, extreme need for them to eliminate all suffering and finally attain Nibbana. Because until then, you are going to be born again and again. If you become enlightened, you will never be born again in this samsara. But otherwise, you will be constantly die and reborn in millions of lifetimes. And this samsara is so dangerous because once you die as a human being, you have no idea where you are going to be born. unless you are very serious follower of the Dhamma. When the disciples see through the Dharma, you learn that this samsara is not a very safe place to be, and more than anything else, this person has been born as a human being. That means he has born in the most fortunate situation to overcome suffering. Only as a human being you can learn and practice the Dhamma, and up to the point that you are not going to be born again. Even the Buddha has been born again and again and again and again, and every life he has been training himself and practicing himself to overcome all human weaknesses, all causes of creating suffering in every life, because you are going to be born, you can be born in many difficult places. You are not going to necessarily be a human being again unless you are very lucky or well trained. You can be born as animals. You can be born as hungry ghost. You can be born as a hell being. You can also be born as a divine being, Deva. There are many Deva worlds of different luxuries. There are Brahma worlds, which are very peaceful and long life. But the person who learned the Dhamma from the Buddha realizes that even you are born as a human Deva, after human being you can become a Deva or Brahma. After the lifespan is over, you come and end up in very difficult situation. It is possible. You can be an animal, you can be a hell being. This Brahma or Deva can be born in lowest life. So therefore, these people who learn Dharma began to understand that there is no escape anywhere in this samsara, the cycle of life and death, life, birth and death. And it is so important, it is so urgent that we got this human life and we had the opportunity to listen to the teachings of the Buddha and learn the real nature of where we are at, which is samsara. And they developed the urgency to become enlightened and follow the Buddha.